the strange noise beneath the floor. Josh Miller never liked silence. It made him feel like something was watching him. That's why he always played music while working. But today, inside his grandfather's old house, his phone battery died, and the silence returned. The basement was cold and smelled like wet stone. Josh was clearing the walls to install new shelves. His hammer hit the bricks again and again, sending small clouds of dust into the air. But then, he heard it. A hum. Low, deep, and steady. It came from behind the wall. Josh froze. He listened carefully. Nothing. He hit the wall again. It wasn't in his head. Something was really humming behind the bricks. He stepped back and stared at the spot. The bricks were old, some cracked, some loose. Maybe there was a pipe or some kind of old machine. He should have stopped, should have called someone. But curiosity won. Josh grabbed his hammer and chisel. He started carefully removing the bricks one by one. After the 6th row, something shiny appeared behind them. Not stone, not metal like anything he had seen. Smooth, silver blue, cold to the touch. It pulsed gently with light, almost like it was breathing. His hand trembled as he touched it again. Suddenly the hum grew louder and the wall shook lightly. Dust fell from the ceiling. Josh stepped back, heart pounding. "What the hell is this?" he whispered. He cleared the rest of the bricks fast. Now the full shape was visible, an oval pod, like a giant egg resting sideways in the dirt. It had no buttons, no seams, just strange symbols glowing along the side. Josh reached out and tapped it again. Hiss! The pod hissed loudly. Steam exploded out from the edges. Josh stumbled back, coughing and waving the air. Lights inside the pod flickered, blue, then green, then red, then silence. Everything stopped. Josh held his breath. A line slowly formed across the middle of the pod. It split open with a soft click. And inside was a girl. Not human. Her skin was pale blue, glowing softly. Her hair was silver and floated gently like it was in water. Her body was curled tightly, her chest rising and falling slowly. She looked young. Maybe the same age as Josh, maybe older. It was hard to tell. She wasn't wearing any clothes, just a soft silver fabric around her. Tiny lights blinked on the collar near her neck. Her eyes were closed, her lips slightly parted. Josh stepped forward, not sure what to do. Was she alive? Was this some alien experiment? His brain shouted to run, to call the police, the government, anyone. But something in his chest said, "Help her." He placed his hand gently on her arm. It was warm, real. She was breathing. Suddenly her eyes shot open, bright violet. They locked on his face. She gasped, and her hands flew up like claws, but she was too weak. She collapsed against the side of the pod, still breathing hard. Josh raised his hands. "It's okay. I'm not going to hurt you." She stared at him, blinking fast, confused. Then she whispered something in a soft musical language he didn't understand. Her voice was shaking. She looked scared, trapped, alone. Josh looked around. The walls were cracked. His tools were on the floor. The world he knew was falling apart. But in front of him, lying in a pod buried under his grandfather's house, was a living alien girl. Josh sat on the floor. He didn't move closer, just watched her. "What are you?" he whispered. "Where did you come from?" The girl slowly leaned back, eyes still on him. Her hand reached up and pressed something near her collar. A soft beep. Suddenly, lights flashed inside the pod again. Josh stood up fast. Wait, what did you just... The pod started making a loud beeping sound. Josh looked around wildly. "Crap, are you calling someone? Is it going to explode?" The girl didn't answer. She just looked tired, like she didn't care anymore. Then she fainted. Her head tilted to the side, her hand dropped from her chest, and her body went limp. No, 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 no. Josh ran to her and caught her before she could fall out of the pod. Her skin was cold. Her breathing was shallow. Josh didn't know first aid for aliens, but he knew one thing. She would die if he didn't help. He gently pulled her out of the pod and laid her on a soft rug. He grabbed his old jacket and covered her. I don't know who you are, he whispered, but I'm not going to let you die. From the dark corner of the basement, the pod blinked once, then went dark. But something else turned on. A faint red light flashed under the floor, something buried even deeper. And outside the house, far in the sky, a satellite caught the signal. Josh didn't sleep that night. He sat in the basement beside the strange girl, listening to her soft breathing, afraid it might stop. The pod behind them was cold now, dark and silent. It felt like something ancient had been disturbed, like he had opened a door he shouldn't have. But the girl lying on his old rug wasn't a threat. She looked fragile and lost. He checked her again. Her skin was less cold than before. Her hands twitched gently, like she was dreaming. The silver fabric wrapped around her was now dim. The lights near her collar blinking slowly, red, then blue, then red again. Josh didn't know what any of it meant, but he didn't need to. He just needed her to live. Morning sunlight crawled through the dusty basement window. Josh stood up quietly and grabbed a clean towel and some bottled water. He knelt beside her and gently wiped the sweat from her forehead. Her skin shimmered softly under the light, like moonlight on water. No human had skin like that. No human. Girl would be buried inside a glowing pod under an old farmhouse. Whoever she was from another world. Then she moved. A small sound escaped her lips. Her fingers curled. Her chest rose sharply, and she opened her eyes. Josh froze. Those violet eyes stared straight into his. For a long moment, no one moved. Her pupils adjusted quickly, shifting in shape. She blinked slowly, and her lips trembled as she tried to speak. He raised his hand slowly. It's okay. You're safe. I'm not going to hurt you. Her mouth opened, but no words came. Just a breath, a soft, shaky breath like she hadn't used her voice in years. Josh pointed to himself. Josh, my name is Josh. She watched his lips carefully, her head tilting like a confused cat. Then she tried to sit up. No, take it easy, Josh said quickly, trying to support her back. She flinched when he touched her, but didn't pull away. Her hands were weak. Still, she managed to sit halfway, leaning against the wall. Her eyes looked around slowly, studying the room, the tools, the broken wall. Her gaze stopped at the pod. Her expression changed. Her hand slowly reached up and touched her chest where the collar blinked. Josh noticed her fingers trembling. You were in there, he said quietly. Buried. I found you. She looked back at him, then spoke. The words were musical, flowing like a song but completely alien. Josh shook his head. I don't understand. She blinked fast. Her hand pressed against her temple like it hurt. Suddenly, a sharp beep came from her collar. She cried out softly and fell forward. Josh caught her just in time. Her skin was burning now, hot like fever. He laid her down again. The collar lights turned yellow. No, don't do this again, Josh begged, checking her pulse like he had seen in movies. He didn't know what was happening. Some kind of system failure? Was the collar hurting her, or keeping her alive? She opened her eyes again, this time filled with pain. She reached out and grabbed his shirt. Her voice came out hoarse and broken. Help. One word. Clear English. Josh's heart skipped. You know English? But her eyes rolled back and she fainted again. Josh sat there, frozen, stunned. That one word shook him more than anything else. She wasn't just some random alien being, she understood. She was aware, and she needed help. He couldn't take her to a hospital. They'd report her, lock her up, maybe worse. No one would believe him anyway. They'd think he was insane. Or worse, they'd take her away and never let her go. He looked back at the collar. Maybe it was a translator, a machine helping her adapt. He stood up, rushed upstairs, and came back with an old blanket, some soup, and painkillers, though he wasn't sure if they were safe for her. He sat beside her and whispered, "I'll help you. I promise." The day passed slowly. She remained, unconscious, her breathing light but steady. Outside, the wind howled and clouds moved in. A storm was coming. But inside that small basement, something even stranger was coming to life. At nightfall, she stirred again. This time, when she opened her eyes, she didn't look scared. She looked aware. Her lips moved carefully. "You, human?" Josh nodded, his voice quiet. "Yeah, I'm human." She pointed to herself weakly. "Soraya." He smiled. "Soraya. That's your name?" She blinked once, then her eyes filled with tears. She looked down at her body, then at her collar. She said something again in her language, this time full of sadness. Like a cry. Josh didn't understand the words, but he understood pain. He reached out and gently held her hand. "You're safe here, Soraya. I found you. I'm not going to let anything happen to you." She looked at his hand in hers. Slowly, her fingers closed around his. That was the moment something changed. Not just for her, but for him too. Somewhere, out there, someone was looking for Soraya, and Josh knew deep in his heart he had just stepped into something far bigger than himself. For the first time in days, the basement was quiet. Soraya lay on the mattress Josh made for her, still weak but no longer trembling. Her violet eyes slowly followed every sound, every light flicker, like her senses were waking up one by one. Josh had brought her water, a clean shirt, and even tried to explain how Earth food worked. She didn't say much, only short words, soft and careful. But she listened, and every time she looked at him, she didn't seem afraid anymore. But Josh was starting to feel afraid. Not of her, but of what might come for her. Late that night, while Soraya rested, Josh sat in the kitchen above the basement going over the events in his mind. Her pod, her strange collar, her glowing skin, and the machines embedded in the wall of the basement that he hadn't noticed before. Since she arrived, the air itself felt charged. Radios gave off static, lights dimmed randomly. His phone died for good, and then, while standing by the kitchen window, he saw it. A flicker. Something moved in the woods beyond the field. A shadow, fast, too smooth to be a deer, too tall to be a person. And it didn't walk, it glided. Josh's blood turned cold. He turned off the lights quickly and peered outside. For a few seconds, everything was still. Then, near the tree line, two small red lights appeared, eyes. Watching. He rushed back downstairs. "Soraya!" he whispered loudly, kneeling beside her. "Wake up!" She opened her eyes quickly, alert, now like a soldier. "There's something outside," Josh said. "I think it's looking for you." She sat up fast, her breathing suddenly sharp. She pressed her hand to the collar at her throat. A blue light blinked once, and a small screen appeared from a hidden panel in the collar. Strange symbols ran across it, then turned red. "Hunters," she whispered. "What?" "Trackers. Found a signal." Josh stood, grabbed an old metal bat from the corner. "They found the pod's signal, didn't they? The one that went off when it opened?" She nodded once, painfully. "Can they hurt you?" She didn't answer, but the fear in her eyes said enough. Josh helped her to her feet. She was still weak, but could walk slowly now. "Come on. We can't stay here. The basement has one back exit, an old storm door. I'll take you out through that." He grabbed his flashlight, a thick jacket, and helped her into his oversized hoodie to hide her strange appearance. Her skin's glow had faded, but her silver hair still caught the light like glass. She moved silently, only holding on to him when she stumbled. Outside, the wind was picking up. The field was empty, but Josh didn't trust it. They reached the Storm door, and Josh opened it slowly. He peeked out. Nothing. Let's go, he whispered. They stepped into the night. Cold wind rushed over them and Soraya shivered. Josh held her closer, guiding her through the tall grass behind the house. He knew an old barn deeper in the woods, a place no one visited anymore. Halfway there, Soraya stopped. Josh turned. What is it? She pointed at the sky. Josh looked up and froze. A black, silent drone was hovering above them. It had no lights, no sound, but it felt wrong. Something inside Josh said, "Run." The drone turned its lens toward them and let out a low pulse. Soraya screamed. Josh grabbed her and ran. The drone shot a blinding light at them, but Josh threw himself behind a fallen log. The light missed, burning a hole through a tree instead. Not just light, it was a weapon. Josh looked at Soraya, who was shaking now. Her collar glowed violently. No, she said weakly. More. Come. Josh looked toward the barn. They were close. Come on. He lifted her in his arms and sprinted. The barn was broken, but its underground root cellar still had a heavy steel door. Josh kicked it open and slipped inside just as another beam tore through the trees behind them. They rolled to the ground. Dust filled the air. Soraya coughed and cried softly. Josh held her close. You're okay. We're okay. No. Not safe, she whispered. Josh reached for his backpack. Then we'll make it safe. He looked at her seriously. Why are they hunting you, Soraya? What do they want? She hesitated. Then slowly she touched her collar again. A faint blue light shimmered across her skin. She pointed to her chest. I carry code. Code? She nodded. Royal code. Josh blinked. Your royalty? She didn't answer with words. Just tears. The truth was out. Whoever she was, whoever was chasing her, they weren't going to stop. And now Josh wasn't just protecting a stranger. He was protecting a royal alien girl who held something powerful, something worth killing for. The root cellar was dark and cold, but for now it was safe. Josh had blocked the steel door with crates and heavy tools. Outside, the drone had left, but not far. He could feel it. The air still pulsed with tension, like the sky itself was holding its breath. Inside, Soraya lay curled in the corner, her silver hair spilling across the floor, her glowing collar dim once more. She hadn't spoken since revealing the truth. She carried something inside her, something called the Royal Code. Josh sat across from her, staring at her with so many questions. He didn't even know where to begin. Alien royalty? A pod hidden in his grandfather's basement? Hunters from the stars? This wasn't some movie. This was his life now. Soraya looked up, her eyes still tired but steady. She didn't seem surprised by his silence. Slowly she sat upright, one hand holding her ribs. She winced in pain. You're hurt, Josh said gently, moving closer. Let me see. She hesitated, but then, slowly, she nodded. Josh knelt beside her and reached out. Her body flinched, but she didn't pull away. He gently lifted the edge of her shirt. A dark bruise had spread across her side, just beneath the ribs. Alien or not, she bled like anyone else. He reached for his bag and took out a cooling gel. This might sting. She watched him carefully as he dabbed it on the bruise. Her skin reacted to the medicine, glowing faint blue for a second, then calming. She let out a breath and leaned back against the wall. Better? He asked. She looked at him and nodded once. But her eyes didn't leave his. Josh was about to turn away when her hand lifted. She touched his cheek, lightly, barely a brush. Suddenly, something strange happened. Images flashed behind his eyes, not memories, hers. A silver tower floating in the sky. Children laughing in golden fields. A woman in armor placing her hand on Soraya's head. And then, war. Explosions. Screams. Her being dragged toward a pod. Someone shouting in her language. Protect the code. Hide the air. Josh gasped and pulled back. The vision stopped. He stared at her, his heart racing. What was that? Soraya looked down. Touch. Speak. Memory? You can share thoughts through touch? She nodded. Josh sat back, stunned. He rubbed his face, still seeing flashes of her world in his mind. You were a princess, he whispered. You weren't just running. You were sent away. Her lips trembled. Mother. Gone. Kingdom. Burned. Josh's hands curled into fists. Who did this? She looked up. Her eyes narrowed. Zereth Dominion. Josh had never heard of them, but the name sent a chill down his spine. He moved closer again, calmer now. That's why they're hunting you, because of what's inside you? Code. Inside me, she said softly, placing her hand over her heart. DNA lock. Royal command. Only me. Josh shook his head in disbelief. You're the key to your people's future. That's why they buried you so deep, and why they'll never stop. She nodded. And now, you in danger. Josh met her gaze. Then we face it together. Her lips parted slightly. Why? Not your kind, he smiled softly. You didn't fall from the sky to die alone. You came here for a reason. And maybe I was meant to find you. She looked at him, her eyes wide and searching. Then slowly, she reached forward again. Her fingers brushed his, and this time, Josh didn't pull away. Another image flickered in his mind. Soraya standing in a chamber, placing her hand on a large console, and 1,000 ships powering up around her. She was powerful, but still so broken. Josh squeezed her hand gently. You're not alone anymore. Tears slid down her cheeks. She lowered her head and whispered, thank you. That night they shared no more words, but their silence was deep, full of things they both felt but couldn't say. When she drifted to sleep, Josh stayed awake, listening. Every sound outside made him grip the bat tighter. They were being hunted. She was royal, and now he was her shield. But something inside Josh had changed too. He wasn't afraid of the stars anymore. He was ready to fight for what had fallen from them. The night was still, but the stars above twisted like something was moving behind them. Josh carried Soraya through the woods, her weak body wrapped in his jacket, her head resting against his chest. The old barn's cellar had served as shelter for 2 nights, but they couldn't stay there any longer. Her collar had begun blinking again, rapid, urgent. She didn't need to speak to tell him what that meant. They're coming, she had said softly. Josh didn't ask how she knew. He believed her. Every word she said felt heavier now, like the weight of her entire world rested behind it. She wasn't just a stranger anymore. She was someone fate had dropped into his hands, and he couldn't let her fall. They reached his house just before dawn. Josh carried her straight into the basement. The old place smelled of dust and metal. The broken wall still revealed the pod, now silent and empty. The air felt different, tense, tight, like the earth itself was bracing for something. Soraya sat slowly on the rug, gripping her side where the bruise still lingered. Josh looked around the room, mind racing. If anything was going to happen, it would be here. This was where it started. It would be where they made their stand. He moved quickly, grabbing nails, planks, wires. He set up makeshift barricades across the staircase, placed metal tools and sharpened poles near each wall. If anyone or anything broke in, he wouldn't make it easy. You should rest, he told her gently. She shook her head. No more hiding. Then, her fingers reached for her collar. She pressed down on the side, and a quiet hum filled the room. From the collar, a glowing map projected into the air. Blue lines showed the house. Red dots blinked just beyond the forest. Josh stared. They're that close? She looked at him, serious. Minutes. He grabbed the bat. Then I guess this is it. No. She touched his hand. We, together. He nodded. The moment she said that, the lights in the house above them flickered. A high-pitched ringing sound filled the air, painful and sharp. Then, boom! The front door above exploded inward. Josh heard heavy boots, clicks, hisses, sounds that didn't belong to any human army. He grabbed a metal pipe and handed Soraya a wrench. "Stay behind me." The basement door creaked. A shadow moved down the stairs. Josh raised his pipe, heart pounding. Then he saw it. A creature, tall and armored in dark metal with glowing red eyes and long razor-like arms. It wasn't human. It didn't even look alive. A machine? A hybrid? It stepped forward slowly, scanning the room. Josh didn't wait. He swung hard. The pipe slammed into the creature's side. But it didn't even flinch. The thing turned toward him. A laser blade hissed out of its wrist. Josh dove back just in time as the blade sliced the air where his head had been. "Josh," Soraya cried. The creature turned toward her, and something inside her snapped. She stood up, not fully steady, but filled with something more than strength. Rage. She shouted a word in her alien tongue, and the collar around her neck exploded with light. Blue waves pulsed through the room. The creature staggered, then it froze, completely paralyzed. Josh stared in shock. Soraya stepped forward. Her voice was calm, cold. "Stand down." The creature dropped to its knees. Josh blinked. What did you do?" She didn't look at him. "Royal override. I command their system." "You control them?" "Not all. Only this one. Others, not loyal." Josh helped her sit back down. Her energy was draining again. The light in her collar dimmed. From upstairs, more boots sounded. 3 more shadows. Heavy. Fast. "They sent more," Josh said, gripping his bat again. Soraya looked up. "Not machines. These... worse." Suddenly, the stairs collapsed as a blast hit the roof. The ceiling above cracked. Smoke poured in. From it came 2 tall figures. This time, not metal, not machine. They had skin like obsidian, eyes like coals, and long claws that clicked as they walked. Josh felt his body freeze in fear. But then, Soraya stepped in front of him. She touched the glowing symbol on her collar once more, and her skin shimmered, bright blue, bright enough to blind. The alien soldiers screamed and covered their eyes. Josh swung the bat hard, hitting one in the leg. It shrieked and fell. Soraya grabbed the wrench and struck the other in the chest. They fought together, clumsy, desperate, but united. By the time the smoke cleared, the basement was wrecked, but the creatures were down. Josh stood over one, panting. Soraya, shaking but still upright, whispered, "More will come." He turned to her, eyes wild. "Then we'll be ready. Next time they won't catch us in a basement." She nodded, eyes glowing. Josh stared at her, dirty, bruised, glowing like a fallen star, and still standing beside him. This was no longer just about survival. It was a war now. And somehow he had just become part of it. Smoke curled up through the broken floorboards as Josh pulled Soraya through the basement, her arm slung over his shoulder. The air was thick with dust and burning wires. Parts of the house above them were already on fire, flames licking down the walls like hungry orange fingers. Everything Josh had ever owned was turning into ash, but he didn't look back. Soraya coughed violently. Her legs gave out for a second, but Josh held her tighter. Her collar flickered with dying blue light, sparks leaking from its edge. She had used too much power. The last attack had drained her completely. They were both alive. For now, but they wouldn't be for long if they didn't move. "Come on, just a little further," Josh whispered, leading her toward the storm door at the rear side of the basement. Flames had already blocked the stairs. The roof above creaked, threatening to collapse at any moment. The back exit was their only hope. He kicked the metal door open, coughing as cold air rushed in, washing the heat off his skin. It was still dark outside, but the horizon was starting to turn gray with the first hint of dawn. Behind them, the house snapped and cracked as wood and stone gave into the fire. Josh pulled her into the open yard and dropped to one knee, holding her gently. Are you okay? He asked, brushing ashes from her face. Soraya's skin was burning hot, but her eyes opened slowly. We need to keep going. Josh looked up at the smoking sky. Where? She lifted a trembling hand and pointed toward the hills. Old place, underground, safe. Josh remembered something. His grandfather's war bunker, built long ago during Earth's Cold War. It hadn't been touched in years. He had the key. That place might actually hold. He helped her up again, both of them staggering now. They didn't run. They escaped. Through tall grass and over wet fields, they moved like ghosts. Behind them, Josh's house exploded with a final blast, lighting up the sky. Whoever had sent those creatures, they would know she was still alive, and that she wasn't alone anymore. By the time they reached the entrance to the bunker hidden under the hill, the sun was rising, casting pale light over the land. Josh dropped to his knees and unlocked the rusted hatch, pulling it open with all his strength. Down we go, he said softly. He helped Soraya descend into the darkness. The air inside was musty, untouched for years, but dry, safe. Josh lit an old lantern and looked around. The place was cramped but stocked with old supplies, blankets, and emergency food. He gently laid her on one of the cots and covered her with a thick wool blanket. Soraya looked at him, her lips dry. The kid will follow. I know, Josh said, sitting beside her. But not yet. We bought some time. He handed her water. She sipped slowly, every movement weak. I shouldn't have come here, she whispered. You're in danger. Because of me. Josh shook his head. You didn't come here. I found you, and I'm not leaving you now. Her eyes softened. I feel different around you. He smiled gently. I feel that too. A silence settled between them. Then, Soraya touched her collar. It sparked, her brow furrowed. System. Broken. I cannot contact anyone. Code is locked. Josh leaned closer. Can it be fixed? I don't know. He looked at the tools hanging on the wall. He wasn't a scientist, just a mechanic. But he had worked with machines his whole life. Maybe it didn't matter if the tech was alien or not, if it had wires, power, and a system. Maybe he could try. Let me look, he said. Soraya hesitated, then nodded. She leaned forward, and Josh gently lifted the collar's edge. Inside were circuits, some melted, some blinking. Tiny alien screws, pulsing cores, and a strange energy that made his skin tingle. But it wasn't impossible. Josh looked at her. I think I can help. Might take some time. Her lips curved into a tired smile. You are strange human. He grinned. I get that a lot. That night, while Soraya rested, Josh sat with tools in hand, eyes half open, heart full of purpose. He wasn't just fixing something, he was building a future, and even though fire had destroyed his home, something far more important had survived. A girl from the stars, with royal blood, a broken system, and trust in him. The fire behind them had only cleared the path forward. 3 days passed in the quiet bunker beneath the hills. The outside world had no idea what had happened. No headlines, no reports, no search teams. Just ash where Josh's house once stood. But in that silence, something strange and beautiful had begun to grow. Josh worked day and night repairing Soraya's broken collar with his own hands. He scavenged wires, batteries, copper, anything he could find. The alien tech didn't follow human logic, but there was rhythm in its circuits, a purpose in its glow. He learned to feel it more than understand it. And Soraya? She watched him like he was something rare, someone who didn't fear her, didn't want to use her, sell her, or hide her. Every time she opened her eyes, Josh was there, with soup, with jokes, with warmth. Each night she regained more strength. Her body healed quickly, faster than a human could, but the weight in her eyes stayed. On the third night, The collar blinked steady blue for the first time. Josh gasped. It's working. Soraya sat up slowly, touching the device around her neck. Her eyes lit with hope. You did it. Josh smiled, exhausted but proud. Told you I was more than just a guy with a hammer. She touched the collar's side. A soft light projected into the air, a signal searching across stars, but her smile faded. No reply, she said softly. Josh looked confused. What does that mean? Her lips trembled. Maybe. No one left. Silence stretched between them. Then Soraya turned to him. Even if I'm the last, I'm not alone. She reached forward and placed her hand over his. Josh blinked and once again saw a glimpse into her memories. This time not pain, not war, but hope. Soraya standing before a great chamber, holding hands with children, her people laughing under twin suns. Peace. I don't belong here, she whispered. But you made me feel like I do. Josh's voice was low. Then maybe this is where you were meant to be. She looked at him, eyes glowing softly. Your world is small, but your heart is wide. Josh laughed gently. Are you trying to compliment me or insult Earth? She tilted her head. A little of both. He smiled. Then he grew serious. You said you carry the royal code. What happens if your people never return? What happens to the code? She looked down. It stays with me, unless I pass it. Josh hesitated. To who? Her eyes met his. To someone I trust. The moment lingered. Then a soft beep echoed through the bunker. Soraya looked down at her collar. Signal detected. Josh tensed. Friendly or not? She shook her head. I don't know. The map blinked again, showing something approaching from orbit. A ship. Josh stood slowly. If it's them again, I'll protect you this time, Soraya said. He looked at her. We protect each other. Hours passed, the air heavy with tension. Then a low hum filled the sky. A craft appeared, unlike the hunter drones. Sleek, silver, calm. It landed near the forest edge. Josh and Soraya stood at the hatch of the bunker watching. Two figures stepped out, neither armed. One was tall, silver-robed, with markings like Soraya's across their face. Soraya's breath caught. My mother's guard. She stepped forward as the figure bowed deeply. In her language, he spoke. High One, you survived. Tears filled her eyes. The others? Few remain, but your code is safe. Your reign begins now. Josh's heart ached as she turned to him. She walked back and took his hands. They came for me, but I'm not going without asking. He stared at her, confused. What do you mean? I want you to come. Be with me. Earth may not need me, but I need you. Josh's throat tightened. You're leaving? I don't know for how long. Maybe forever. But if you say no, I'll stay. Josh looked at the stars above. All his life, he had wondered if something was out there. Now someone from out there had changed his life forever. He smiled slowly. Where you go, I go. Her smile was everything. They boarded the ship together. As Earth grew small behind them, Soraya reached for his hand once more. Thank you, she whispered. For what? Josh asked. For showing me that even far from my world, I can still find home. He pulled her close. You're not my alien anymore. She looked up at him, confused. Then, what am I? Josh kissed her forehead. You're my family. The stars opened in front of them. A new life began. Together.